this. And then the other one is,
such deals are made in politics?
Shocking as it might be, then there's another, we'll call it a tontine, between Jeb Bush, Chris Christie, and John Kasich. And the name of that game is, you got to kill Marco Rubio. Because as long as Marco Rubio is drafting first in the channel for establishmentarian Republicans, none of those three jamokes get to go anywhere.
Steve, I hate to bring up the establishment, but since Chris has broached it, these establishment candidates are getting their heads handed to them, and the folks who are the so-called outsiders are prevailing.
Yep.
Is that dynamic going to change because of what we witness over the course of this debate coming up in less than an hour?
I think just the opposite. I think you're going to hear the establishment type candidates, or the candidates widely perceived to be in the establishment lane, continue to try to adopt the language of the outsiders because that language is working. I was in Iowa last week, followed Marco Rubio around a little bit, followed Ted Cruz around a little bit, watched some speeches. What struck me is that Marco Rubio's speech sounded almost exactly like Ted Cruz's speech. They were hitting the same themes, talking broadly about populist reforms.
I remember when you would have thought they both had the same view.
Well, look, I mean, actually, if you look at their voting records in the Senate, they're not very different, which is what's so funny that you've got these candidates that Chris describes taking shots at Rubio as an establishment candidate, trying to clear the establishment lane when his voting record is awfully close to Ted Cruz's.
The votes that were taken, that is, on the part of Senator Rubio. I mean, the opportunity here for bloodletting is enormous tonight. You had, of course, it may have just been politics, heaven forbid, but you actually had the impression that Rubio and Bush liked one another at the onset of all of this, that each of these candidates was palatable to the other, if not someone about whom they might be passionately enthusiastic. There doesn't seem to be any love lingering in the distance and the gaps between them now, does there?
Oh, I will say that among the last guardians of the Bush citadel, the hatred for Marco Rubio is maybe more intense. The disdain for Rubio is maybe more intense than it is for Trump or any other candidate. They call him Judas. They hate what he has done because what he did was he stepped out of line in a very unwaspy, unbushy, unestablishmented way. He stepped out of line in front of his mentor, and he ran for president, and he's beating him at it.
Well, you would think Jeb Bush would be kind of used to that. It was even a brotherly act,
oh, man.
Was it not?
Ow. True story. That's a true fact. He didn't win his first gubernatorial election in Florida. His younger brother got ahead of him, got in Texas, ran for president first and won.
Each of these candidates is carrying some burden tonight. To be more than the audience has really recognized, at least as in polling. And how much of what they do recognize will convert to votes beginning first in Iowa? Is there a measure of how to track that traction?
I'm not sure there's a way to track it, but I think it will be reflected in the intensity of the debate tonight. I mean, they're well aware that voters are now making up their minds. People who haven't been following every twist and turn of this campaign the way that we have for the past really year and a half are now finally tuning in and paying attention to these things, and many of them will be making up their mind over the course of the next month. So this debate and the debate on the 28th in Des Moines matter more than all the other debates. This is where things start to be decided.
In Twitter land, or Twitterverse, Donald J. Trump, real Donald Trump, is letting it be known that in the latest NBC Wall Street Journal polling, he has extended his lead over the field measurably, significantly. He just seems at this point to be moving in only one direction, and that is higher, his numbers. And is there a way in which that can be blunted, in your opinion? Chris?
Well, I mean, blunted isn't the thing. This is a long process in the sense that really Steve is even being hurried in talking about when the decision-making starts. It begins incrementally now, and then really it's in the 10 days prior to Iowa. So we're about a week away from the real gears starting to turn. Everything up until that point stands in notional. It's a notional idea. The question that stands for Donald,
ideas sometimes are want to be,
as they are want to be, and in politics very often want to be. What the question for Donald Trump is this: does poll support equal vote support? Donald Trump's support in the polls could be overstated. It could be understated. We don't know, because it doesn't look like the traditional Republican primary coalition, because it's got a lot of Democrats in it. It's got a lot of independents in it. Does it translate to votes on election day? We have no way to know yet.
Steve, with that bleak outlook on the black chasm before us and in political certainty that Chris has projected, I hesitate to ask any question requiring a definitive answer, but I will. Here's the thing. Right now, it seems like it's a two-part race. One part is Donald Trump. The second part is everybody else. That has to be changed for there to be anything material for Iowa, 18 days distant for us.
Yeah.
How do you bridge it? And do you not see a direct correlation between polling and likely result in Iowa and then New Hampshire in quick order, and then the state of South Carolina?
You want me to answer all those questions?
Yeah.
I'm going to do all that.
But you've got at least 30 seconds.
Yeah. Did you take notes?
So I think you framed that in exactly the right way. And here's what was amazing.
It was too long.
Until this morning. I'm going to pick and choose.
All right.
Here's what was amazing. Until this morning, you have Donald Trump as the frontrunner, who has, let's just say, non-traditional views for a Republican frontrunner. Some of them are conservative. Some of them are not. I mean, on some issues, he's still to the left of Hillary Clinton. Having said that, you have nobody up on air making that point.
Right.
And certainly not in a sustained way. And I think it's because the candidates have decided that for their own reasons, they're not going to go after Donald Trump at this point. It doesn't make sense, and they want his voters if he has some slippage.
They're cowards also.
Well, they've got every reason to be. When you look out at the results, the experience for each candidate who's attacked Trump, it has not been a candy rock mountain for them after doing so.
Man, big rock candy mountain with
Speaking Chris's
language. Now you're speaking my language.
Yeah,
where
I was afraid I would do that.
There's a lake of stew and a gin lake too, and you can paddle all around it in a big canoe.
I wouldn't have denied our audience that for anything. Steve and I might have been spared, but not our audience.
Not the people.
Thanks so much. Chris Darwall. That was quite a linguistic journey we went on there, Steve. Thanks so much. Thank you. Appreciate it. Up next, we're less than an hour away from the second Republican presidential debate of the evening, a dynamic we haven't seen in a debate yet. 7 candidates on the stage, lots of time for them. What can we expect from the Republican front runner, Donald Trump, and his second drafting behind him, Ted Cruz? What happens on stage? We're told it's going to be lively, it's going to be electric, and something that none of us would ever want to miss. We're in. Live from North Charleston. Stay with us.
The GOP debate. When it comes to America's hot-button issues, only one team gets the answers you need. At 9, it's Maria Bartiromo and Neil Cavuto. Watch our coverage or catch our live stream.